Moin, welcome back to the channel, everyone. It is Mace, best host on the West Coast, coming to you from Vancouver Island here in Canada. And today, the truth about living in Germany, an American's point of view. Let's check it out. I guess there's an American that's gone over there for school or for work or for love. Who knows? But yeah, it's interesting. Let's check this out.
So when I landed in Germany, I remember the first thing that was kind of a shock was hopping on a train. I had never been on a train. Now it seems really normal.
You'd never been on a train? Good for you, mate. Good for you.
But I hopped on a train, went through the beautiful countrysides of Germany down to a little city called Marana. And I remember being kind of shocked at how small it was and that we had a car. And then there were little tiny things that were shocking to me. I mean, just for the fun of saying what they were, there was like a light switch. They're not like switches, they're kind of like pads. So you hit a whole entire pad. Or the pillows, they're not rectangle, they're squares. And they're windows. They don't open up and down or side to side. They tip in and out, and they open kind of like a door. So there was a lot of little differences like that.
I do love those windows, and I wish that we had those here, or I wish I had those. But I remember somebody commented on one of my older videos that I think they had a relative or like a family connection to somebody in Germany, and they are actually sending them those windows, like shipping them to them, so they could install them in their house. Because that'd be great, right? They open like this, and they open like this, like they open that way and that way. So they're very convenient for letting air in and airing things out, and very, very good. Pillows, I hadn't heard about the square pillows. I do find our pillows annoying. They're too big.
They have, I mean, our apartment had our washer and dryer in the kitchen, and then I thought that was just our apartment, and then I realized a lot of a lot of apartments are like that. So those were little tiny things, but nothing big. My favorite food in Germany is just schnitzel and rotkohl. Rotkohl is just red cabbage, and they would have Klöße. So that's basically it looks like a potato, but it's not. It's just a dumpling. I guess that's what it is in English. And
It sounds delicious.
and that was my favorite. Was when we just had schnitzel, rotkohl, and Klöße. I also really liked rouladen, which was just meat rolled up in, and they'd marinate it, and it just tasted really good. I liked their meat. Simply said. I really learned to like red cabbage, which I disliked. I also liked sauerkraut. Didn't like that either. So, but by the end, I pretty much liked anything they put in front of me. The weather in
That's like me. Like I'm not a picky eater at all. Now that I'm a bit older. When I was young, when I was a kid, of course I was a picky eater. Brussels sprouts, nope. Like asparagus, nope. Like all of these foods that I didn't like eating, but now, love it.
Germany is similar to here in Utah. I mean, the hots are a little bit hotter and the colds are a little bit colder due to the humidity. I really like their traditions that revolve around music and the traditions that revolve around Christmas. They start Christmas at the very beginning of December, and they have the Advent site, which is the time of the Advent, and they have these Advent calendars and they have Advent wreaths, and they celebrate each Sunday prior to the Christmas morning, and that's a tradition.
So beginning of December. So is kind of like the whole month sort of thing. I guess it's the same. It's not really the same here, but is it as corporatized like in Germany because it's so corporate and just consumer focused now? It's so annoying. My family hasn't done gifts really for like years now. Me and my partner will exchange gifts, but just small stuff, right? It's more about spending as much time as you can with your family and with your loved ones, and just yeah, that time that you're able to spend with them is the true gift. Wow, look at me! I'm writing postcards I'm writing Hallmark cards this morning. In the Philippines, though, they start Christmas in September. Definitely October. Like it's like a 3 month thing. October, November, December. Yeah, in October, September even. Like they're starting to be like Christmas music and stuff, like Christmas decorations. Yeah.
That I would want to hold up for the rest of my life with my family. And another tradition that I found interesting was on they open their gifts on Christmas Eve, which is interesting to me. I always thought you do it Christmas morning, but Germans are a little bit different that way. Let's see.
We always did ours a lot of the time at night because my mom was a nurse. So she would usually work during the day, and then we would do them Christmas Day, but at night. Sometimes we'd open a few Christmas Eve too because she'd be really tired, right? Like she worked a 12-hour shift because you're making so much money on Christmas Day, right? You're getting all that extra pay. So it was worth it for her to work.
Another cultural thing about Germany is the public transportation. So you don't see as many cars in cities, and the roads aren't very wide because they all take public transportation. It was interesting because I spent majority on the east side, which was under communist rule, where the DDR was these last not too long ago. And so we met a lot of people who were communists. I never thought that I would become friends with a bunch of communists. It just never crossed my mind as an American, but it ended up being wonderful. I had a lot of friends that had a lot of different political views that I had never really viewed before. I learned to respect other people's opinions a lot more, to not be so hasty to judging. And I realized that the ideals of communism can be appealing. I mean, maybe I shouldn't categorize them all as communists. A lot of them were just socialist and had more of those communistic ideals. But it was still an eye-opener to me when I started making friends with people with other political perspectives. If you're wanting to learn German, the key to speaking any language, I think, is just speaking it constantly. And you can do it. I didn't think I was going to be able to learn a language, but I got a lot of support from my siblings who would write me letters saying, oh, you can try something more like this, try something like that. For example, my sister, she plays the piano, so she kept telling me to continue to study and memorize the charts of the German language, which tell you der, die, and das, so the masculine, feminine, and neuter cases, and when it's going to be nominative, dative, genitive, things like that. And you memorize these endings, and she compared those to a scale, like when you're learning the piano. And so she said, just keep memorizing those. And that proved to be really beneficial. Also, in learning German, the first thing, I learned is was bedeutet. So what does this word mean? So you'd say was bedeutet Haus, and then they'd say in English house, So that makes it so you can continue a conversation just by asking somebody, what does that word mean? And then they can answer that. And then the second sentence I learned
Was bedeutet?
Was wie sagt man? Wie sagt man means
Wie sagt man?
How do you say tree? So wie sagt man tree, and then they'd say Baum. So those two sentences were the first things I learned in German. And then from there, if you're stranded on the street and you have to speak, you can always struggle to put a sentence together. But really, in the end, learning the language wasn't the issue. After about 4 months, it was no longer an issue. I just woke up, studied the language, and it just came pretty naturally.
Wow. Seems like a cool channel. Like a lot of Americans' experiences in Germany. I don't know if they do other countries as well, but super, super interesting. I like it. I like hearing different perspectives, and he made a good point about people, even if you have different political leanings or different political ideas, you should be able to sit down with a glass of wine and just talk about them, and like at the end of the day share a meal and not be like, oh, right? You should be able to share a meal and have a civil conversation and share your ideas and be polite. So good. All right, see you on the next one. There's a link in the description if you want to send me stuff as well. And yeah, tschüss. Auf Wiedersehen.